All right, good morning. This is Dan Bell, and I'm with the Future of Hampton Roads and several other organizations in the region, actually. And it is Friday, January 17th, 2014. We're recording from the Kempsville Library in Virginia Beach, and I've got the pleasure of being with Kristin Fitch, President and CEO of Ziggity Zoom, which is an exciting company. And Kristin, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Well, this is great. So could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure. Let's see. So I'm from the area. I'm a local native, and other than leaving for college and that sort of thing, I've pretty much lived here my whole life. So I went to Roanoke College for undergraduate, and then I made my way back to Old Dominion for my master's degree. And after that, I basically started my business experience about a year after that, I guess. The next company I worked for was Pilot Online, a landmark communications company.
Oh, yeah.
So I was there for about 7 years and quickly moved into sort of their site and ad operations manager position. So I sort of ran the web teams, if you will, programming, billing teams, and things like that. So obviously that's sort of where I got most of my experience in the online world early on. And then I left the company because I had a side business and young children, and I sort of wanted to see, what else was out there, other opportunities. I figured I could always come back and work in corporate America, if I so choose to. Mm-hmm. So from there, we had been doing licensing and different trade shows for some years. And I guess it was about 2006, 2007, we were at the trade show. We'd had lots of licensing deals in the past for gift products, tabletop and kids' toys, plush. But often some of those deals would get put on hold because of the retailers and trends. And what we realized is we were sort of beholden to those, the big box stores. Yeah. And we decided at that show that we had all of these ideas and expertise that if we put it together online, we could kind of create our own destiny. And so that's sort of how the company got created. And from there, basically our company, we are a multimedia, education technology, and games company.
And so the customers that you serve, would you say that the primary customer is parents and it's products for kids?
Right. So we serve mostly a consumer market, and we're reaching parents and teachers. And with both of those, it's geared towards family or kids. And we have both online products and then products that are used either on a mobile device or on your tablet, like ebooks and things like that as well.
Right, and so they would all be considered educational.
Either educational, some of our content's not educational. Some may be art projects, some may be articles, but obviously we do skew to lots of educational offerings, whether it's printables, online games, a mobile application. Right. So we definitely have a lot of educational products for young children, 2 to 8, but we also do offer fun and inspirational and creative products as well.
Well, that's great. And as a grandfather of 2, and my grandkids are in that age bracket, I've already sent the URL for your website over to my daughter and said, please check this out. So,
great.
100% consumer, you would say?
I would say for the most part. Some schools use it, but it's usually not citywide. So in that case, I would say it's still teacher by teacher. So more so than a large, like Virginia Beach City Public Schools or something.
Well, that's great. And so you, like so many entrepreneurs out there, have the courage to take the jump from a corporate role into taking a risk and starting something up, and how did that work for you? Tell us about some of your experiences in starting up.
Sure. Well, like I said, we sort of had an epiphany, if you will, at one of the trade shows where we said, wait a minute, we have all of these pieces, and why aren't we doing this on our own? So I think the first thing is realizing there was an opportunity here. We also obviously were seeing the trend at the time where there was a lot of big players in the kids entertainment space going online and sort of launching sites, and we said, well, we have the same sort of or similar expertise, and we have all of these concepts and characters. Why don't we do it on our own? So the first was kind of creating the vision. So we took months in sort of developing the concept, and then it took us probably 6 to 8 months to kind of create the site and then the content that we started with. So in 2007, we started work that whole year on developing it, but we didn't want to start our LLC till 2008. So that's when and then we launched mid-year. So that's sort of how we started. I would say probably the biggest challenges for us One was sort of how do you get validation with, is this really the right place to be, especially because there was no one in the area that I knew of that had been in the same space.
Right.
And so one of it was that. And then also, when is the right time to roll out your product or service? A lot of companies wait too long to do that, especially startups. But because we were at that starting point, more of a content-based site,
Yep.
is 100 pieces of content enough? Is it 1,000? And so part of it was sort of like, when's the timing right? So that was another, I think, not necessarily challenge, but sort of making determinations.
Wow. Now, your customer base, would you say it's a national audience?
It's absolutely national, international, I'd say.
International too. So
Oh,
tell me about
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So you've got customers from all over the world.
Absolutely.
What kind of mix would you say, U.S. versus international?
Let's see. Probably 70 to 80% is more North America, and then the rest is places like India, the UK, places like that.
Oh, that's fascinating. Are there any dynamics in serving those customers internationally?
Well, for now,
Different.
we're not offering, our site or our products in other languages. I mean, we do have some Spanish materials on there, workbooks and books that are in Spanish, but we don't have the entire site in any language. Obviously, they could use a translator tool. But obviously, lots of other countries do teach English, to their students, and so what we find is they're looking for materials for the young kids to sort of learn that simple, either letters or the alphabet and things like that.
Well, that's fascinating. So, in terms of the growth curve, and you said so you haven't been in business all that long. I mean, a few years, right? And so, when did you? How did you track in terms of achieving your goals, financial and otherwise, over the past several years?
So, I mean, we are still kind of an early growth stage company, so we have not hit our revenue goals yet. While there's some money coming in, it's not nearly what, where we're looking to move that to. As far as our metrics, other metrics, we have a strong size audience of users. So we've reached over 6 million users over the last 4 years, actually.
That's impressive, very impressive.
And had close to 30 million page views. And we've rolled out lots of different products. 30 ebooks with Barnes & Noble, exclusive, and then 7 mobile apps. And then we rolled out about 6 different websites that were all related to family. So in doing so, we sort of did put a lot of stuff out there, and now we're sort of trying to pull back to the things that are really the biggest revenue generators or opportunities for us. So as far as that goes, I mean, our numbers are okay, but obviously our goal is to really build our audience for the content side, and then just strengthen our number of products sold.
So it's interesting. You started off with a broader portfolio, and you're starting to refine your business model.
That's right.
This is where the revenue channels are. So that's great. And speaking of finances, and we talked once again to so many startups, and in some cases you've got small business loans, banks, friends, family, venture capital, bootstrapping. How did you do it?
Sure. So we self-funded our business. So it was my co-founder and myself. We just put in any money that was needed. So we didn't really say we need $10,000 to start or $20,000. We just said, let's start the company. We knew we needed maybe a few thousand to get going. So, and then what we did is, for the first 3 years, we put in money as needed. Just put it into the company. And then in 2010, we took on a third partner for a limited amount of money. So I'd say they're mostly a silent partner unless we need their expertise, then we bring them in.
Very good.
The last thing about that I'd mention is, and so now we're obviously at a point where we're not putting any more money into the business. The business is at least paying the bills, if you will.
Right.
The only other thing I guess with that is, so we self-financed, and we just had to grow slower because of that, because we didn't take outside money.
Well, I mean, there's upsides and downsides about outside money. So,
That's right.
So that decision was good for you. What other kinds of assistance did you get along the way in terms of mentors or role models? Sure.
Well, a couple things. One, I think kind of what helped us most was having that initial vision. What did we want to accomplish? And then having 2 partners with different strengths, but the strengths we know were needed in order to move that idea forward. And then we were very creative with, and we always have been, with our contracts. Meaning that if there's a way to get it done that's not going to, be $50,000 for me, then I'm gonna get it done the more creative way, if you will.
Very good. And for our listening audience, you just overheard the PA system at the Kempsville Library in Virginia Beach, and I cannot guarantee you that you won't hear it again. So
right.
Here we are.
Yeah.
So we talk about risks too, and I think generally speaking, anytime you start a company by yourself or with a couple partners, it's a risk. But what kind of risks did you face, and how did you overcome those?
Sure. Well, one thing is that because we are a really small team and we've really not hired full-time employees other than the partners, and then we have one gentleman that's basically we have an agreement with them, long-term revenue agreement. We have basically had contractors or 1099 team members at times, and that can be a great risk. It can be a reward, but it can also be a risk because they have to understand the vision for at least the project or product, and you're hoping that you can continue to have them work with you through the whole life cycle of the product.
Right.
So that's a risk. It's usually worked fine for us, but there's always bumps.
Yep.
The other thing is we've spent, I wouldn't say large amounts of cash, but a decent amount of cash over the years on unproven efforts. So never on marketing, but we have spent it on hiring people to try to help us with certain things, and some of them did not pay off, and others maybe it'll take 5 years to see the the rewards.
Right, but you got to find your way on that, and
That's right.
And I mean, you just don't know until you try.
That's right.
Right. So anything you do in business is a risk because you just don't know what's going to happen. There's logical and good bets, but you just never know.
Right.
So what other obstacles did you face?
Sure. So 3 main obstacles and then one example. Let's see. So having a really small team, it can be an obstacle, of course, because there's lots of things you want to get done, but you either have to decide to do all those small items, ignore some of the small items, or things don't get done. So that's an obstacle we continue to struggle with and sort of work through. Another one is having minimal cash flow when you're a new business.
Right.
It makes it challenging because you have to decide, well, do we really want to put this chunk of money towards this concept or project, or do we want to keep it in the bank for something else? And then pinpointing our sweet spot. So while we are good at a lot of things and we've done lots of things, in the end it has to be that one thing that bubbles to the surface that we're going to really excel in. And an example, or another obstacle we overcame was after our site had been up for a couple of years, we realized we really had to gear it more towards the parents and teachers, the look of it and just how it worked. Well, we had 3 different, our site was built in 3 different parts. So one was fully custom application, one used a content management backend, and then the third was lots of flash games and books and things at that time. So it took us probably 6 to 8 months to redesign the entire site so it all worked together, and there was, and all the tools worked within each other. So that was a big challenge, but we obviously got through it. And then when you do that, we obviously, it did hurt us, obviously from a search perspective for a while. So that was another obstacle that we had to overcome.
Oh, that's great. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. Obviously, you're a person that's fairly well engaged in community activities. In fact, you and I worked together on another project that's still in play. But what other types of things do you do in the community?
Sure. Well, yes. So I've mentored for many different types of organizations, everything from startup groups. I try to participate in local business events. I do other things like at the school nearby my house. I run or coordinate the Lunch Buddies program, which basically sits with kids each month, that maybe could benefit from that time with an adult. I do things like that. And then, I try to attend conferences or I speak at conferences both locally and nationally on occasion. So those are the kind of things I do, and just obviously try to be aware of what's going on.
In fact, you were a recent speaker at a TED Talks, I believe, in Chesapeake, were you not?
I was.
Yeah.
Our first one in Chesapeake, correct?
Yeah. Let's see, that was TED Great Bridge.
That's right.
And it was how the women in Hampton Roads are helping to shape the future of community. And take us real quickly through some of the highlights. What was the topic that you chose to speak of and why?
Sure. Let's see. Because of some of the other speakers, they said maybe education wasn't, an area for me to focus on or that sort of thing. So I decided to do more of a broad stroke, sort of inspirational focus talk. So my 3 words were discover, create, and I'm trying to remember the third word, but basically, it was just talking about one in our lives we have to continue to create, whether it's in our personal lives or through our business. We have to find ways to use that expression. To discover, we have to find things in our community, things around us, because when we do that, I'm sorry, it was connect. That was the third word. We have to connect with others and through business and other ways. So to me, that was sort of 3 words that just pointed to how we can all sort of aspire
Yeah.
to more things.
Well, I was there, and I thought you did a wonderful job. So
Thank you.
And thanks for helping out in that way as well. Any recognitions or awards or anything like that?
Sure, a couple. Let's see. Well, soon after we started our site in, I guess, 2008, the American Library Association did select us to be listed for one of the sites listed for best kids websites.
Nice.
Which they have a board of librarians that actually select those sites. So that was nice. We got it pretty quickly. And we, every year since 2010, we've won About.com Reader Choice Awards. So we've won everything from best kids websites, and we tied with Disney Digital Books, to best website for preschoolers. And then as we rolled out iPhone games, we won best iPhone game, best kids app, and then in 2013, best new app. So that's as far as the business goes. And then I think the last award I probably was selected for is the Gap 50 Virginia Entrepreneurs Award. So that was in 2012.
Wow, that's great stuff. I mean, even I got to say, tying with Disney Books. I mean, that's huge. I mean,
Yeah, no, that was good. Actually, it was a little funny how that happened, because technically when it closed, it looked like we should have won, and they were saying Disney should have because of the Eastern Pacific. So then they ended up giving us a tie, and in the end, that actually worked to our advantage. We're like, that's not a bad way to position it.
That's a very good position. So let's talk about some of your background training. You're doing great. You're successful. I mean, you're doing very, very well, and looks like a great future in the region. How'd you get your business training? Where'd you get it from?
Sure, most of mine was on-the-job training, if you will. So everything from, well, first of all, my business partner has had other businesses of her own for many, many years. So she brings some of that to the table. And then I have had a small licensing company since 1999. I don't do much with it now. I mean, it still exists. So I had to do lots of, or some negotiating in the contract review and those sort of things. Then working for the Pilot, a landmark company, I had the opportunity to go through leadership training and weekend MBA workshops and things like that. So that was wonderful. And then just obviously being at the Pilot, they really do a good job of sort of, you look at the balance sheets, really have to, as any sort of management level there, understand those things and go over those things. And then obviously now having run this company for the last couple of years.
Great. So a lot of it is the School of Hard Knocks and just learning along the way, which is always good as well.
Right.
What lessons have you learned?
Yeah, so a couple things there. One I would say, if you're in business or you're starting a business, you need to figure out the one thing that you can do exceptionally well, whether it's a service or a product or whatever it is. I've been in the same trap, if you will, where we try to do lots of things pretty well, which is okay. But in the end, I think the key really is do one thing really well. The next is you have to hire or work with the best people, because in the end it really does come down to that. And then I think the two keys are, it's all about vision and execution. That's everything. And then often you need to revisit your business objectives.
You talk about execution, and and I've used this term over and over again. I mean, great plans are great plans, but unless they're executed well, they're really just worth the paper that they're written on. So
That's right.
It's all about translating it into actions and measurements and progress. So
Absolutely.
Those are all great lessons, which I think a lot of people can adapt to. So speaking of that, recommendation from you for growing businesses in Hampton Roads.
Well, I'd say a little bit more general recommendation, and then I'll be more specific, is if you can, of course, you should work in the industry that you're considering going into, because one, you'll have context, two, you'll really understand it a little bit better. So obviously if someone hasn't started yet, that would be my first recommendation. But from there, I mean, you really need to attend business events, you need to join business groups, and they don't have to be general. I mean, if you're in technology, go join some that are technology based. If you're in trying to do government contracting, go find somebody doing that. And then you have to ask for help. So find people or mentors that will help you. And then you have to go out and find customers immediately. Even if you're still working and you're doing it on the side, go find somebody that will give you money for your services.
So how do you find Hampton Roads, this region that we're living and working in? How do you find that region for getting customers?
Well, I mean, I'm in a little bit of a unique position because my the core Ziggity's in business isn't really related to the local industry at all. I do obviously do some consulting here and other things just kind of one to keep me fresh in that and sort of get it, stay involved. So in that case, I do have some customers I work with, so I can speak from that experience, I guess. I think that the nice thing is we have a vibrant community. We have a strong base of military, medical, and health services, different industries, still tourism, food. We really do have a lot going on, and we have people consumers and businesses that have money. I get that the economy's been down and a little better, but truly people are spending money here. Look around you. People are out, they're shopping, they're at restaurants, they're around. So the good news is I think we have a pretty vibrant, strong community. And it's an easy place, I think, to start a business.
That's good. It's good to know. So let's talk about the culture in your company, and if you're not an organization with lots of employees, it's still a culture that you establish and communicate to your customers. So tell us about your core.
Sure. Yes. And while we are still a small group, we do have some overlying sort of things that set our culture. So one is, if we can imagine it, we will find a way to create it at some point. Another is, we really do believe in being creative, so finding that outlet, both for us and kind of the extension of getting people to do that. We do believe people are everything, and that we should go out of our way to help or make a customer happy. And a quick example of that is, one mom had emailed us several years back and was very upset because her daughter had found some princess stickers on our site they wanted to print, off their printer. So they needed to use sticker paper. Well, what happened is, I guess when it printed for her, it printed the directions first and not the stickers, and so she only had a sheet left or two, and so lo and behold, her daughter has no stickers, and she's upset. The mom's now mad. Well, we emailed her back and said, we're sorry, and we looked into how we could print it so that it wouldn't print that way. But we sent her a package of items, to sort of try to make her happy. So things like that when we can.
Yep. So little tokens of going the extra distance for your customers. So we've talked a little bit about mentorship, guidance, etc. What other, and you even mentioned some of the peer groups, is that a good term?
Sure.
What types of organizations are out there that you see that can help support entrepreneurial activity?
Sure, I'll speak to that, but real quick, I'd also say that I try to also just look for every opportunity how I can learn from it. So it doesn't have to be relevant to my industry. I try to look at other things and see how I can apply them to my own business. And obviously people can do that through attending speaking sessions. They can do it through books, online videos, especially lots of the TED Talks, or looking to top people in the business fields. So I do that a lot. The other thing, though, is as far as peer groups and organizations, there's so many out there. There's professional business groups, there are local groups, there's several in this area I know of, different entrepreneurial groups, and then there's lots of industry-specific groups. So really, if you just Google, if you're in a certain industry, you can Google, industry group, whatever your industry is. So if it's working on airplanes or something, so that's the first thing. And then just go on LinkedIn and then find other groups that you can join first there, and then usually, or meetups, and then go find where people are actually meeting, and go join it.
Well, you talk about meetups too. It is important to have the capability and opportunity to meet with employed entrepreneurial people, just to share experiences and leverage. So,
and I think it helps keep you motivated.
Yeah, so that's great. Workforce challenges. Let's talk about that. What are some of your observations about the workforce that we see coming up or out of education in this area? And then the follow-up is what recommendations might you have for job seekers? So what's your experience there?
Okay, so for more general first, I would say there's still a perception for a lot of people that this area doesn't have lots to offer as far as jobs, but I would highly disagree with that. I think there are a lot of jobs if you're resourceful and you actually have some skills. So one is, I think people just want to make an excuse for that. But I think we have a huge talent pool here, and the challenge is going to be pairing those new graduates, or young 20-somethings with jobs. So we really need to do a better job of marketing to each other and trying to attract those talent. So I think we have them. We have so many universities, within an hour distance of here. And we have a lot to offer, beaches, city, not far from DC. So I think we have everything we need, and I think we do have a strong workforce. Everything from some of the public schools, like Virginia Beach has a excellent program with
Oh, yeah.
Virginia Beach Economic Development Center and the
Yep.
robotics and other things.
Yep.
To all these universities are offering, pretty cutting edge programs.
They really
So
are.
I think we have a strong workforce. We just have to show them the benefits of finding a job locally.
And so when we talk about brain drain, right, and that's a risk, probably everywhere, but it's a risk here as well. So the concern is that young people, I'll use that term because in some cases it's retraining, but let's just say individuals coming out, are we not developing the opportunities? Are we not communicating the opportunities? Are we not communicating the benefits of this region? I think that ties into some of what you're saying.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of all of that going
Yeah.
on. So I guess the question is, it depends on the type of company. But one thing maybe, companies that are looking for employees may not do is they may not go and actually try to promote themselves to, people coming out of college. I mean, the government obviously does to some extent,
Sure
but
they do, yeah.
some of whether you're an industrial type company, I don't know that they go do that. And then obviously even the companies like Dominion, I don't know that, Enterprises, I don't know that they do that because I don't think they've really had that need. But I think there's a lot of talent there that they could bring in early on.
Yeah, so it seems like there's an opportunity to create a program that kind of intercepts the young people that are coming through education to say, here's the corporate environments out here, here's the area in which you live, and there's some wonderful places here. So
yeah, and I think that some of the government organizations have done a great job with this. They really do bring in their internships. They might have a different name for it, I forget.
Right.
They bring in students or graduate students to work for the summer, and they pay them. But then they actually are trying to find people they're going to hire. So that is the intent. And some businesses do that. But I think if more businesses did that and actually didn't make internships kind of a joke sometimes, then we would actually have, people going straight into those jobs.
So you're kind of talking about a thing that's incumbent upon us to possibly do as business in this area and education, but what recommendations might you have for the job seekers that are out there
Sure.
in terms of preparation, et cetera?
Yeah, well, of course they need to be prepared for interviews and practice their interviewing skills and make sure that they've updated their resume. One thing is, I think a lot of people, when I look at resumes, they really do a horrible job of putting their resume together. They don't understand how to pull out the gold, if you will. So they really should have people maybe that have been in business a lot longer look at it and give them harsh feedback if needed. But beyond that, so let's assume they've done those two things well. I think as a job seeker, you have to show your passion and you have to be real. I mean, you have to be who you are. You want to present your best foot, but you want to be real about, you, because you may not be a fit, or your company may not be a fit with you.
Right.
You want to get to know people in the company before you're trying to, get a job there, because you're going to have a better opportunity or chance. You need to grow your portfolio, and that doesn't mean if you're an artist or a web developer, but any sort of portfolio. Whether it's sales, now you have a history of sales. Whatever it is, you can have a portfolio of something. And then go to local events, of course, and get out there into the community and meet people.
And so when you talk about that, and as you mentioned earlier, you're a member of various organizations. Are there any organizations or membership groups out there that you can think of that job seekers might want to affiliate themselves with?
I mean, there's so many. Honestly, I don't have a specific one that I would mention right now. I would say I would recommend going online and looking into it, or finding people in your circle, your business circle, and asking them which ones are they in, and then finding the right fit for you at the time.
So just talk it up and ask.
Yes.
Yep. I was going to ask you why you did business in Hampton Roads, decided to do business in Hampton Roads. I guess the first answer is because that's where you live.
Right. So obviously I was born and raised in Virginia Beach, and I left for obviously several years, and then I came back. But in general, I do love the area. Otherwise, I probably would have gone elsewhere after my college years. I think we're really lucky because of the different industries we have here, the beaches, and then you can go not too many hours, mountains. So for me, I thought it was a great place to live and expand my family as I was doing that years ago. So for me, why in Hampton Roads is because I really I thought it was a great place, and I can't think of anywhere within hours of here that I would rather live.
Well, it is a great place. I'm from the Midwest and been here for several years now and love every bit about it. So what other insights or discussion topics might you have since we're almost out of time?
Sure. So I would probably just close with saying, giving you a couple words that I like to think about and try to focus on, to make sure I'm kind of doing the things I should be doing, whether it's when I started a business or just trying to sort of refocus my business or grow it. So the three words related to others is, I like to think, am I elevating, inspiring, and appreciating others? Am I challenging myself, and am I innovating? So my offerings and myself. So for me, it's kind of like if you put down those lists and sort of see what you're doing, you'll hopefully be going with the right course.
Well, those are absolutely wonderful thoughts. And what is the URL for your website?
It is ziggityzoom.com. That's ZIGGITYZOOM.
Awesome. Well, Kristin, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you for your efforts within Hampton Roads. You're a wonderful member of our corporate world here, and we wish you nothing but future success.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.